So for our signature assignment presentation, we decided to do an exceptionality point of view from the educational and the psychology perspective. So for the educational perspective, I found a website that talked about like the Alaska Education Department, but I feel like it applied very well to just everybody in general, how they should look at exceptionalities in the classroom. So a quote that stood out was, "Our teachers need to teach to a high level of achievement and be prepared to teach all of America's children." And it goes on to list about all the different exceptionalities that we've covered so far in the semester. So it talks about inclusion in the classroom and why should teachers care about inclusion for exceptionalities. So research has found, according to this article, that kids who were fully included in classrooms got better social skills, they were able to interact with their peers more, and they also advanced in language, reading comprehension, and it really helped positive attitudes for the students, but also teachers and their peers. And so being fully inclusive for kids with exceptionalities is really going to help them in a lot of ways. So as teachers, we should want to be fully inclusive for those kids and allow them to fully participate in the general education classroom. So what is inclusion? The definition, according to the article, is providing specially designed instruction and supports for students with special needs in the context of a regular education classroom. So as we talked about earlier in the semester, we talked about least restrictive environments, and we really want to focus on getting kids into the general education classroom. So there's 3 types of inclusion listed. We have mainstream, which is just kids that can adopt to the mainstream education in the general education classroom, and then integration, which is a mix between being in the general education classroom and the special education classroom, and then full inclusion, which is they're receiving their services of special education in the general education classroom. So these students need their support to be successful and for inclusion to occur, and the general education classroom needs to be a place where students are supported despite their disabilities. So I have a little chart about like the do's and don'ts of being inclusive in your classroom. So being more hands-on in your learning, having students be responsible for their own work, setting goals, giving them choices, and some of the don'ts is just busy work, stuff to fill their schedule, lecturing at them, having them memorize things instead of just learning at their own pace. So something that you can do is having science experiments, gross and fine motor activities, goals and self-monitoring, so they're looking after their behaviors, and then picking their own books and subjects about what they want to talk about, because this will most likely allow them to be more engaged. And then just having special education services in the general education classroom. So then we want to finally talk about diversity, collaboration, and flexibility within the classroom. So understanding that diversity is going to be a big thing in our classrooms, because kids are going to come from different cultures, different backgrounds, they're going to have different exceptionalities, and they're all just going to learn differently. So we want to know that every student has their own place in the classroom and that we want to support them with everything we possibly can. Collaboration, we want to work with other general education teachers, special education teachers, so that we can all be on the same page and put forward what we need for the students to succeed in the classroom. And then being flexible, so allowing for those accommodations and modifications to assignments and in-class teaching and instruction. And so just making sure that they're getting what they need at the level that they need it, so that they're able to complete it and still be fully included in the classroom.
And then I did the psychological perspective and how it plays a role in the classroom. So first, understanding individual differences. So for the learning styles, recognizing that children are going to have different learning strengths and weaknesses, and including visually, auditory, or kinesthetically activities for them. recognizing their strengths and weaknesses, and every student is going to have a unique ability, so not every student is going to be the same. Needing to help and be supported, and they may need specialized learning plans. Cognitive and emotional needs, so cognitive processes, emotional regulation, and social emotional development of children with either disabilities or other exceptionalities. Is important to know as an educator or in the counseling psychology field. Applying psychological theories. So for educational psychology, it helps create those engaging learning environments for students, and how it may help how students may learn and retain information differently than others. For developmental psychology, this is the study on how the individual develops itself and how it changes as a human, and it focuses more on social and emotional development. And then lastly, cognitive psychology, so it focuses on mental processes, so their attention span, how they perceive things, memory, language, and then thinking and problem solving. So I also talked about the inclusive learning environment from a psychology point of view. But to achieve an inclusive learning environment, you first need to have flexible teaching and learning to meet the needs for all the different types of learners. So, and then accessibility, so making sure students have access to their resources and accommodations that they need to be successful. And then they may also need that sense of belonging and that safe environment in the classroom to feel valued and cared for. And then the benefits of having a more inclusive learning environment include their academic performance increasing, social and emotional development, and supporting the student's emotional intelligence. So addressing specific needs. So being able to understand the student's basic psychological needs is very important for the classroom. So the autonomy is helping students feel like they get a say in their learning. And so for example, like giving them choices in activities and learning methods that are done in the classroom. Next is the competence, helping students feel capable and successful in their learning and feel like they're growing and actually taking things from the lessons that they learn. And then relatedness is something that's also looked at on how they need a positive environment to grow, and they need that sense of belonging with not only their peers but their teachers to feel that connection and want to do well. And then our references.